Hi everyone, thank you for watching and joining us today. I am here with Amy Jackson, who is a PR strategist at Tailsplash. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Berlyn Komar, a digital marketing strategist and owner of Planted Marketing. We do full service marketing for purpose-driven brands, and we focus on community building. Today, Amy and I are going to talk about holiday marketing and prepping your business for everything that includes. Even though we're in July, there's a whole lot that goes into the back end of it. So we're going to dive into that today. I'm going to pass it over to Amy to introduce herself.
Thank you, Berlyn. I'm Amy Jackson. I've been in PR my whole career, which is more than 20 years now. And I started Tailsplash because there was a real opportunity to help emerging brands tell their stories and get products featured, starting with the holiday season. So really my first clients were looking to get featured in holiday gift guides, and that was summer of 2021. And so, yeah, there's really an opportunity to start early, to start getting in front of editors. And there's different ways to do that. And I see that we have some guests joining us. So thank you for joining. We're here to talk about holiday PR and marketing. And I'm going to be answering questions along the way. But I would love to know, as people are joining, if you want to share in the chat, are you looking to have a product featured in the media this holiday season? Or is there a different kind of holiday story that you want to be pitching to the media? Because a lot of my tips will focus on products that, or a physical product that you can get into the hands of journalists to review. And it sounds like, yes, we do have some physical products. So there's different ways to do this. There's, you can send out product to editors without kind of vetting their interest first. My recommendation from doing it for so many years is to go through a channel where you can offer them the products to review. And then once you confirm that they're interested, then you go ahead and ship the product to them. And that's what we do for our clients. In the world of fashion, I see we have a guest joining us, Crystal. In the fashion world, this can be done year-round. So holiday is a great time of year to kickstart a program like this, because editors are thinking about their holiday gift guides starting now. We're getting requests for clients at Tailsplash as we speak from national media outlets that are interested in trying out our clients' products. But in the world of fashion, this can be happening throughout the year, because there are, multiple seasons and gifting occasions throughout the year. So the holidays is a big one. We're thinking about that from summer all the way through the end of the year. But then when the calendar rolls around again, editors that put together features are going to be thinking about Valentine's Day and Mother's Day and Father's Day and graduation gifts. And so this is just a good practice to put into place and then have it kind of running throughout the year. So I mentioned that you can ship your product out and hope that editors take interest, or you can go the route I recommend, which is use different channels to first offer your product, but wait to get confirmation from an editor that they want you to actually physically mail them the product. And I say that because if you are launching a new business or you have inventory, you don't want it to go to waste. You don't want it to be sitting in a closet somewhere or in a box somewhere not being opened, right? And so that's why I recommend making sure that a journalist is going to consider the product that you send to them. And there's ways to do that. There's databases that you can sign up for. You can enlist the help of a PR agency, which is what Tailsplash does. And you can basically make your product available to journalists. And then when they say, oh, I do have an interest in reviewing this, then you go ahead and ship them the product. And there's no guarantees when you do that. So that's one thing to be mindful of is, they're considering your product for a feature or a gift guide. But when you send it to them, there's no promise that they're going to be able to use it or review it. It's for, editorial consideration. So I'll pause there because there's a lot more we can talk about, but I just wanted to kind of get the conversation started.
Yeah, that's a great intro. I mean, you mentioned tools. We'll kind of dive in right there. I know of a couple like Haro, which has just recently changed, but what do you like to use and what do you recommend for other small business owners?
Yeah, so Haro is definitely the OG of media requests. But like you said, it's gone through quite an evolution. It was acquired and rebranded, and the original founder has now launched a new version of it. What I have found in working with companies is that the model of paying attention to a newsletter that comes out 3 times a day is overwhelming when you're a business owner. And so what I've seen more successful are other platforms where you don't necessarily have to review the entire newsletter, but instead you're creating a profile and journalists can review the products that they see and then reach out to you to ask for a shipment of a product. There's also platforms where AI is making kind of more of a matchmaking process happen. And then there's other databases that are specifically geared towards gifts and holidays. And so giftless media is one that we use at Tailsplash. Giftless media is great for holiday gift guides. If you want to research different editors, get insight into like what are they covering this holiday season or another gifting season outside of the holidays. And then you can decide, do you want to reach out to them first and offer the product, or do you go ahead and ship them the product? It really depends on, it's personal preference, the value of what you're sending. Again, if you want to take the risk of whether they receive it or not, I think personally it's better to check and offer and see if they want you to ship them product versus doing it without, getting that confirmation first. But yeah, there's other platforms out there. Presshook is another one that's great for product requests. And all of these platforms do have a cost attached to them. So, you can sign up for one if you're going to commit to using it, but you really have to be using it, right, to get your money's worth. Or you can hire an agency. And many agencies like us, we have all these subscriptions already. So, you're instead of paying for the subscription to these platforms, you're paying for an agency to do the work for you.
Yeah, what do you think the success rate of like cold sending products is versus like already having a connection or a lead with somebody?
It's a great question. So I haven't been in a situation where I have shipped product without verifying if it's going to be considered for editorial. So I can't give you a stat for that, but my thought is, I actually did a TikTok video about this because you see these influencer TikToks and YouTube videos where they're literally sitting with stacks of
Yeah.
boxes behind them, and they're like making jokes about how they haven't opened them. They've been sitting there for a month, or here's a month worth of shipments, and they're just like, kind of rifling through them. And so to me, it's just not a good strategy unless you have some surplus of inventory, right? Like if your inventory is something that you want to carefully keep track of and monetize, I wouldn't be just shipping it without getting that confirmation first. But it works for very large brands that have a surplus of inventory, right? So in terms of the success rate for the route that we take, where we're actually pitching the journalists or allowing them to request the products on a platform, we see if they're requesting you to ship them product, that's a pretty high conversion to coverage. It's rare that a journalist takes the time to request a shipment and doesn't use it. You might be waiting for a while, which is what we sometimes see. It can sometimes take several months for that coverage to run. With the holidays, if they are asking for product to review for a holiday gift guide, then at least it's going to have to run between November and December. But if it's just a more of an evergreen product review, it can take a few months to run. And we've had situations like that where product was requested and we were told that at some point it'll run this summer. So we're kind of waiting to see. But if it's tied to a specific holiday, at least you have a sense for when it might run. And I would say the success rate on that is pretty high. So probably like 70 to 80%. Like it's a pretty good return. And then if you're, looking at other types of requests, like we also help companies that maybe don't have a physical product, but they have expertise to share with the media. That's another good way to get your expertise included in a story, is using platforms like the ones we just talked about. And in those situations, it's a little bit lower of a ratio to coverage because other experts are responding to the same requests. And that's like the Haro model. The original, Haro model was the newsletter comes out, they say, I'm looking for XYZ, and then you have no idea how many other people are responding. So with pitching experts, it's a little lower percentage than if you're being asked to send physical product for a story.
Yeah, I've used Haro a lot. I've seen success for my clients, but like who have a product. But then when I do things for myself where it's like I'm just speaking on a subject, I've never seen anything come of that because I'm sure they're just overloaded.
Yeah, for that kind of thing, I would say, Haro's tricky because you don't know, or, what Haro has become. You don't know who's reading, which responses. There's not really any visibility. If you're pitching yourself as an expert, then I recommend Quoted, because Quoted, at least you can see if the reporter read your response. You can see how many other companies responded, and that gives you a sense for like, if it was, one of 3 or one of 30, what your odds are of getting included in the story.
Yeah, that's a good tool too. Speaking of timing, why are we talking about holiday marketing now in July? Like, can you kind of take us behind the scenes and tell us like the timing and the process of like pitching and how all of that works?
Yeah. So it really has its roots in print publication. So think of magazines. When we were growing up, many of us were, we would subscribe to the print issues. I still actually get a lot of print issues, given the work that I do. But if you think back to that lead time that was necessary to go to print in order for magazines to be shipped out for holiday, they often filed their stories 3 months before they actually like made it out the door and into people's mailboxes. So 3 to 6 months used to be a print oriented deadline to have an editor, be able to review a product or write a story and then have it go to their editors to be, refined and then eventually make it into the print issue. Nowadays, because of the volume of products that journalists are reviewing for the holiday season, a lot of them still follow that same timeline. So they're still asking for things in July that will eventually come out in November. And that's more because, they're going to want to review a lot of different products. And it doesn't always have to be a physical product. Sometimes they'll take a high-res image, so 300 DPI or JPEG. Sometimes is enough to get featured. They don't always need a physical product, but be ready for them to ask for a physical product. Sometimes it's enough to just pitch them, a product with a photo that comes along with it. And they're basically evaluating all these different products, and they have different themes for their gift guides. The best thing to do if you're trying to get into a publication is to see what the publication has covered in years past, right? Go and look at, and nowadays it's all online. So you can see online what their holiday gift guide looked like last year and when it came out. And you can kind of work backwards that way too, if you're not clear on what their deadline is. But basically, they're giving themselves enough time to review all these different options, review the pitches that are coming through in their inbox, and narrow it down. In some cases, they want the physical product in their hands and shipped to them. And then, they're putting their stories together. It's going through an editor or two. The graphics piece is part of it too. Many of these holiday gift guides are very visual. So it's a lot of images that they have to, incorporate into a spread. And so their design team's part of that. So just imagine all the steps that are required, even without it going to print, that they have to do. So they like to give themselves lead time. We see editors request products all the way through November. So some of them are going to start now, and some of them will continue to request products all the way through like last minute gift guides, which, would be the beginning of November. So
Mhm. Yeah. You mentioned that they just want like an image. So do you notice more people charging like or not charging to post, but like they want an affiliate link? I know like I have to get all my clients like an affiliate link. So like do they charge? What does that look like?
Yep. So that's a great point about affiliates. That is a requirement for many publications nowadays. I'll never forget when I noticed that Oprah's Favorite Things was requiring products to be available on Amazon. I was like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, it's like that is quite the shift for Oprah that it has to be on Amazon. But that's because Amazon has a built-in affiliate program, right? So if you're not on Amazon, there are lots of different affiliate programs you can sign up for. There's more entry level affiliate programs. We've signed up clients for these as well. So like Share a Sale or AWIN are two that come to mind. The kind of next set of affiliate options, you would look at like Commission Junction or something like that. And so any of these are going to charge like a monthly fee to join. They're going to have a certain split on transactions that you have to, provide on sales. But basically, this is now a requirement for many lifestyle publications. And so it is one of those, necessary steps that you need to take in order to be available, more broadly in these national publications.
Mhm. Um, do you like I've reached out to some people who specifically want an Amazon, like they'll only take an Amazon affiliate link. Do you see that a lot, or do they really care like what platform it is?
I think the Amazon requirement is much less frequent than just a general affiliate program.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good to know because it's hard for small businesses to be on Amazon, and then that's
Yeah.
just a whole nother beast,
A
really.
whole, yeah, it's a big commitment. So
Yeah,
you definitely don't just do it for the press coverage.
yeah,
Do it
cool.
because you want to be selling on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if people are DIYing this, like how do you recommend them to find people? How should they reach out? How can they like build connections? What's the perfect pitch? Like what does that process look like?
Yeah, great question. So the most like basic, type of DIY that you could do for this is to find the publications that you want to be in, look up the editorial contact there and pitch them. That takes time, right? So you have to like go and find who covers that particular section. And the tricky thing about today's editorial landscape is that editors are constantly moving around. So just because they put the gift guide together last year doesn't mean it's the same person that does it this year. So my recommendation would be, either bring in a PR agency to do it for you because they already know who to pitch. They can set up the platform for you where editors request your products. If that's not feasible, then look into something like Giftless Media if you're specifically interested in the holidays, because those editorial contacts are vetted throughout the year. So the team that manages those contacts, they are actually like confirming with the publication who the right contact is. And it's constantly changing. And that's year round, not just holidays. It's like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, you name it. And then, if you are looking to put the pitch together yourself, if you're not hiring an agency to do it for you, shorter is better. Don't send attachments. Make sure your subject line is very attention getting, just like, the kinds of subject lines that get our attention in our inboxes. It's especially important with editors because they're getting inundated with pitches all day long. So think about a billboard. Think about that amount of words in your subject line. Think about what makes your brand different from other brands and really unique and really special, and why it's such a great gift for the holidays. and try to get that into the subject line and like the first paragraph of the email. And then link out to other resources. Don't, add a bunch of like images or extras to the email. Keep it really brief on why it's a great holiday gift, who would like this as a holiday gift, what the price point is, and then link out to images. So in a folder or on your website, don't attach images because it'll get blocked. Yeah.
Oh, smart. Yeah, that's a good. Well, it's all good tips, but not attaching is good tips too. Um, Obviously there are a lot of benefits for like with working with a team versus DIYing it, but specifically when it comes to like having warm leads, like even yourself, do you experience people willing to learn more about a product or a brand because they worked with you versus like you reaching out to somebody as like a cold lead, even though you are like an agency?
The most important thing is that it sounds interesting to them. It doesn't really matter if they recognize your name or not. It's mostly important that it's like, oh, this sounds really cool. I haven't heard of this before. Like that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And we have the benefit as an agency of knowing who the editors are at each publication. And, we're pitching them all the time. So it's, a faster point from A to B to like figure out who to pitch. But it does not going to matter to the editor if a pitch comes from us or from you. It's really going to matter what is the hook, like what
Mhm.
makes this particular product new, novel, different, and, an irresistible choice for the holiday season. That's the most important thing.
Cool. That's good to know. I feel like obviously cold email. Like personally, I will never open a cold email. And I know like especially in somebody in their position, like they're just in their inboxes are flooded. So like would it be nicer to have like a warm connection or is it just about the pitch, I guess?
I think the subject line is the most important thing
Yeah,
in their inbox.
yeah, very cool. So what would you say, like things have obviously shifted even in the last like year or so. Where do you see the most success? Like, is it blogs? Is it like personal bloggers or is it like big media companies? Like where do you see the most success or like the most bang for your client's buck when it comes to pitching and like who you send products to?
So we tend to focus on media at the national level. So magazines and lifestyle publications at the national level. However, if you have a product that you've built and you're local to a specific, city, you could certainly try to pitch your local media, like getting on like local news or in the local paper is definitely something to try because if you are an emerging brand in that city, then that's something that's interesting to them. But for our purposes, we tend to focus on the national media. And that's just because, that's what moves the needle for the kinds of companies that we're working with. And we feel like, if they reached out to their own local media on their own, they'd probably have just as good of success as if we did it. Where we can really help is at the national level, because that's a lot of different publications and editorial contacts to keep track of and to reach out to. And we have the systems in place to do it really efficiently for them. But yeah, if you have like, oh, I really want to be in this local magazine, pick up a copy and look and see who the contacts are and reach out to them and, see what happens. But for volume, like in reaching a lot of different publications, that's where an agency can be really helpful and save you a lot of time.
Cool. Anything else you want to add that we haven't touched on yet?
I feel like you covered a lot of the questions that I would have wanted to cover. I'm curious if Crystal has any other questions in the chat that she would like us to answer.
I will definitely get to her if she has. Give her a sec. There's a lot of info we're giving you, so
Yeah,
lots of
a lot
thoughts
of
for sure.
information. And then in
But
terms of images, I did think of one thing.
mhm.
It just should be simple. Your product on a white background is the best thing for
Okay.
holiday gift guides. Because if you picture like looking at a gift guide in print or online, it typically has a white background and there's just like images that are in, created in sort of a collage on a white background. So you make it easier for them, for the editors, if you don't have anything in the background, it's just on a white background.
That's a good idea. With the folder of images that you send them, do you recommend like including lifestyle images, or if it's a product that needs like some description, like do you recommend doing like sample videos or anything like that just to give them some context?
I do like the idea of video nowadays because every media outlet is on social media. And so it might be interesting to them to feature on their social channel, but it's not a requirement. I think first and foremost, having your product on a white background is usually enough. If you already have lifestyle images because you're using them for your website or elsewhere, feel free to include those. But we typically see for gift guides specifically that it's the product on a white background. And there is a question around, do samples get returned? They don't really like to return samples. It's kind of a pain for them. Even if you're like, here's a return label, they're kind of like, oh. So I would just assume you were gifting them. That's the best way to go about it because it's kind of an extra step for them to have to return it. So, and then in terms of follow up, there was one other question about how long do you wait to follow up? If you're sending something physical in the mail or, UPS or whatever, then I think it's totally fair to be like, hey, I noticed checked the tracking and it looks like it was delivered. Just wanted to make sure you received it. Cause sometimes packages get lost. We've had this happen, like, it happens to any of us. Maybe it shows up at a neighbor's house. Maybe it never got delivered, even though the tracking said it did. So it doesn't hurt to track the shipment and just say, oh, I noticed it was delivered. Just want to make sure, made it safely to you. And then in terms of follow-up from there, I would just check with them, like, when is your deadline? And then you can use that to say, oh, did it make it into the story? Based on when the deadline is that they're filing the story. Okay, so there's another question about AI. So I would not use AI to draft any written content that you're going to use with editors because they use like AI, content kind of detection systems. I wouldn't want your pitch to get, blocked because it was AI generated. I think AI is best used for other kinds of content that's not going to have to go through like a spam filter or an inbox. Especially if you are pitching your expertise and like your responses to questions they have, then they can't use it if it's AI generated. So just to be on the safe side, I would not use AI to generate the pitch that you're writing. I would just use your own knowledge of your brand and your differentiators and what makes the brand special.
For that, what makes me think of like if they're writing it, like we just need to give the details, right? Because they're going to be the ones writing everything. So we don't need to make like a whole story about it.
Nope. It's really like, if you think about it, it's like hooking them, like what hooks them to learn more. If they're interested, they will dig in and like do the research. And like you said, they will be the ones to write the description that actually gets used in the story. They're also going to check out your website. So make sure your website is like updated and has the messaging that you want, when they're checking you out. But yeah, at the end of the day, they're the ones writing the story. So it doesn't have to be a perfectly written piece of editorial content that you send them. There's a question about local media and calling or trying to reach them in person. With local media, if you are trying to get into like local TV, then you can call the news desk like that. This is what I used to do when I first started, was like call the assignment editor and try to pitch them over the phone that way. But chances are, even if you get a hold of them, they'll probably ask you to send a follow-up email. So I would definitely focus more on email as a way to send them information, and then maybe follow up by phone if it's like local TV. And then in person, I wouldn't just show up at a news station or a magazine or something like that, I would definitely check out like local events that media are putting on or participating in to learn about like how they work and what kind of pitches they want. There's other organizations too that you can join to learn more about editors. So there's another platform that was just launched recently called Pitchcraft, and Pitchcraft connects you to editors in a different way than some of these other platforms do, where you can like offer your expertise or your products to send. It's instead giving you insight into what they're covering or like how they want to be pitched. So if you're interested in getting in front of lifestyle media at the national level, Pitchcraft is another service to check out.
Cool. That was a lot of great info. Thank you so much. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before we dive into like the marketing prep side of things?
I think we covered it all, but I'm here. I'm a resource. Like, feel free to contact us at tailsplash.com. We're on every social channel, and we can always answer more questions that you have.
Yes, and definitely follow her online. She posts lots of videos, and all of her social content's really helpful. So follow along, and all the links will be in the bottom. You can drop it into the chat too if you want, Amy, for
Yep.
Crystal and other viewers, and then everything will be in the chat, in the caption section. Cool. So that was very helpful for PR, pitching, growing brand awareness, but there's still a lot of prep to do on the marketing, like back end side of things. One of them Amy just mentioned was your website and your messaging. So one, like prepping your website speed, making sure that's up and ready to go and people can easily navigate through your website, making sure everything is mobile optimized because over 60% of people are coming to your website through their phone. So making sure that that works well. Your messaging is a big one. So anybody that's researching your brand beforehand will get to know about your brand and can use that for any media or press that you're getting. And that also goes into SEO, so making sure your website's optimized, because that's usually takes some time, like a few months to kind of kick in and to start getting you seen on like Google search pages. So getting your SEO started now is really important, and that can be used in like any blogs that you're posting, any of your product descriptions, and any of your website pages. So you can even start doing like your own holiday gifting guides on your blog content and kind of using keywords about your products tied to certain gifts and like who they would relate to and for their target audience. The next one is having your product descriptions and images and your product pages all lined up and making sure that they represent the products best. And that I know like it can kind of be a process to get your product pages. So making sure you have all of your images, they're high res. If you want to do videos, those are in place. Your descriptions are making the most sense. They're easy to read. So that's a big one for your website. The next is starting to build brand awareness and audience building. So now is the time to start getting your product out there, whether that's on social media or using PR or running ads. I like to run ads around now that kind of grow your website visitors so that you can start retargeting them later in the year and kind of specifically targeting for holidays or gift purchases. So working on audience building in whatever way that looks like for you, whether that's like a social media strategy, getting really narrowed in on what your social messaging is and your social SEO. So SEO has now moved on to social platforms, which includes everything from Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest. So doing keyword research, using that in the content that you're posting on Instagram, using that in your scripts if you're posting videos, using that in your Instagram bio and your Instagram name. So just doing keyword research now to kind of build your audience. And then I like to research later on in the year to kind of shift things towards like specifically around holidays or gifting. So people are looking for gifts for people, starting to include more keywords and tags for that. So doing a lot of social SEO. The next prep thing that you want to do is reviewing or just like doing a deep audit and a deep dive into all of your social channels, making sure everything's consistent across all of the channels, making sure your messaging is cohesive and consistent across everything, and that it's really representing your brand. Diving into your previous sales and seeing how those have worked, diving into your previous campaigns and like really recognizing what's connected with your audience and what has driven the most conversions for you in the past, and kind of taking that and running with it while also testing other things for this season as well. Diving into your customer journeys. So what does the process look like from when they find you, whether that's on social or through an ad? And what does this journey look like for them from the point that they find you to purchasing? So making sure that your story and your messaging is cohesive across all of your channels and that the process is really smooth for them. So if they come to your social channel or like your Instagram and maybe your link in bio is like really congested and it's hard for them to get to your website, then let's say that they eventually make it to your website, but things are really hard to navigate there, or maybe things are slow. So just taking a journey from like their experience to a conversion and making sure everything works quickly and makes sense and is easy to follow. And also diving into your like customer messages or reviews and seeing what people, if somebody's complained about something and just changing that for this year and kind of like using any feedback that you've gotten to make this year better than the last year. The next one is budgeting. So setting your budget for the entire rest of the year and projecting what that would include. So if you're going to increase ad spend in the year or for the holiday season, if you need more help, whether that's hiring somebody to help with fulfillment or hiring to help with brand awareness, like a PR or marketing agency, kind of projecting that for the rest of the year and getting things set there. I always like to do a annual budget, so that way each month I can kind of like fluctuate and it's not just like a set budget each month. So if I have like, let's say $500 to spend for every month of the year, some month I can do 3, some month I can do 7, and kind of like gives me more of a projection for the whole year rather than month to month. The next thing I like to do is plan your sale dates and work backwards from there. So let's look at like what your November, December, even January sales look like, plan out all of those dates, plan out exactly what those sales are going to look like, and then working backwards, knowing like, okay, I need content around this specific product that I'm going to promote. So start building up your content for that product. Being able to plan out your email newsletters and being able to plan out like any influencer collabs or any PR that you want around specific products. So just kind of getting your schedule set for the end of the year and what your sales look like exactly, and then using that to work backwards to get all of your content and everything in place, because you're not going to have time to do it then, that's for sure. But all of this I dive into in a free holiday marketing guide that I have on my website. If you download that for free, you will get a discount for a consulting session. So that's available on my website. And I dive into all of this into so much more detail. And then I have like a date or a sale date calendar. So all of the sales that people usually look for at the end of the year, that's all listed there, along with all of these tools to kind of get everything in order for you guys. And that about sums it up. If there's any questions on the marketing side, happy to answer those now. Amy, is there anything else that you would like to add, or are you good?
I would just echo what you said about really planning ahead, because I think what happens is summer hits, people take time off, kids are out of school, and we notice like a real shift in, June, and then July, things start to pick up because people are thinking ahead to like, what do I need to announce or pitch in the fall? So we like to get ahead of the fall now, even though summer, is busy with family and holidays and things like that. And so I would encourage anyone thinking about, holiday PR and marketing to think along the lines of like, what do I need to be doing now? Like you outlined a really good list of steps to take to plan and come up with your strategy. But really, it does need to happen this early, believe it or
Hmm.
not. And you don't want to be on your heels come September because the cutoff for a lot of these opportunities is, October, November. So,
Yeah, yeah. And it's hard to like think that far in advance. And it's something like I have discovery calls all the time where they're like, hey, I'm like actually mid-June, I just talked to someone. She's like, I'm launching something in July. I'm like, well, I mean, we can talk about it after you launch, but like there's so much stuff that has to happen beforehand. So like
mhm.
yeah, there's just a lot of projection, which is hard if you're doing everything on your own. You're so in the moment and it's kind of hard to zoom out. Um, there's a question about keyword research and it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. How will I know if my words are working? What KPI can I use to track the success of my keywords? So, okay, keyword research sounds really overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. You can think just very generally of it, like what is my product about? What are people looking for when they think of my product? So, like you mentioned you have a fashion collection, like what's a specific product you sell, like shoes, or like what does that look like? I'll give you some ideas. But generally for keyword research, what you want to do is go to Instagram and or TikTok or Google is a really good one too. And just think of like your very base keyword and just read all of the keywords that pop up, like the auto population under your search. And just start writing any of those down that are relevant to you. And then you can just continue going with that like infinitely. So take the next word that pops up that's relevant, put that in the search and keep going. Google is really good for that because it will give you related searches and you can just keep going forever. Um, you sell creative clothing, wearable art. Oh, that's cool. Kids, graphic t-shirts, hand printed, women's. Okay. So one handmade, hand printed, huge keywords, I would type those into any of the searches and just like see what pops up under that. And do that for both keywords and hashtags. So start with like a hashtag before hand printed words. And then I would also use keywords related to like the specific audience. So kids, graphic shirts, women's dresses, and just kind of find the specific audiences under that too.
Yeah, as soon
Um,
as I saw that, I was thinking like parenting publications would be the place for that kind of brand.
mhm.
So you could get a little more targeted with PR too. And the nice thing about SEO and keywords and PR is they really work hand in hand because when you are able to get coverage, when people are searching for your brand name, that coverage is going to rise to the top because media outlets have such high, Google domain authority and ranking.
Mhm.
And so one complement to a keyword strategy is to get featured in the media.
Yeah, exactly. Because all of these publications are going to link back to your website, and that also helps boost your SEO without you doing anything on your own website. So when you get a lot of links back to you, that really helps. And then obviously any keywords that they're using, your name's attached, that will all show up too. Um, you asked another question, but before that, you said, what KPI can I use to track the success of my keywords? If you are for your website, specifically Google Analytics and Google Search Console will specifically tell you what keywords people have used to track or to get to your website. So that's how you can track that. On TikTok, it's a new feature, so it might not have rolled out to everybody, but if you go to the analytics on your video, it will also specifically tell you what keywords people have searched to get to that video. Um, and then just like monitoring the views. So if you notice that you made a video or piece of content on Instagram about something specific, like one keyword and specifically versus other keyword content, like if this video is getting a lot of views, that's obviously people are finding it, and that keyword is working well for you. Um, How likely or common is it for a small business or new brand to get their fashion featured in a fashion magazine?
So novelty can work in your favor when you're pitching the media. So they like
Mhm.
to be the source of like new brands, new products. Like a lot of times with holiday gift guides specifically, that is another requirement in some cases that it's something that's new. Or if it is new, they want you to really call that out in the pitch. So going back to like writing the pitch, the subject line, the first sentence of the email that you're sending to an editor, make sure it's like new, launching this month or launching next month. You can even give them a preview before it's even officially, available to the public, but you want to make sure it's at a point where when they were going to cover your brand and write about you, that you have a public website, that you have social presence that they can point people to. So it really comes back to like, is there something that's relevant for their readers? Is there something that is new and novel that you're doing? Having great images, having a good website to send them to for more information, including you as the founder and your story. All of that will help them feel comfortable writing about something or featuring something that's brand new. So really having all of those items ready to go, even if you're like, we're launching next month, that might still help you get coverage because it's close enough to the actual launch that they, could consider writing about it. If you're, several months from launching, they might not be comfortable committing to writing about you yet. But if you're like launching in, 2 weeks or 4 weeks or something, then it can actually help you.
Mhm. Yeah, I see small brands in magazines all the time. I think like I actually had a friend who launched a swimsuit brand, and within the first year, or maybe like 6 months of launching, I don't know if she even had any sales, but she was like already in vogue. So like I think people just really love that. Because I mean, they have all of these big brands all the time, right? And they have different relationships with them. And then I think when they have these like specific guides or like lists, people love to feature smaller brands.
Mhm.
So that's a good question, like just mentioning that you're a small business, small brand. If you have a really captivating like founder story, people love that.
Mhm.
And incorporating that too into like your website and your SEO. So people love like connecting with the brand and they want to know more of the personality behind the brand. So I always try to feature founders in like everything that I do. If they want to be involved, I try to get them as involved as possible. Very cool. Any other questions? Happy to answer those now. Amy, anything else you would like to add in? This was such a great conversation.
Yeah, it really was. I am happy that we were able to do this, month because this is the time to be thinking about it and
Mhm.
really having that plan in place. And the more prepared you are, like the better for everybody, including editors. They really
Yeah,
appreciate when you're on top of it.
yeah. Very cool. Thank you so much. This was such a great combo. Everything will be linked below in the captions for these videos, and reach out to us if you have any questions about prepping your brand for the holiday season.
Thank you so
Well,
much. This was
thanks.
fun.
Bye.